Do you believe in love at first sight? That moment when your heart races and seems to recognize something that your mind hasn't quite figured out yet? For many, this sounds like a myth or a fantasy, but what if I told you there's something deeper in that first meeting of eyes? Imagine if we could understand and maybe even control this phenomenon. Is the magic of first love real or just an illusion? Get ready for a fascinating journey as we unravel the mysteries and surprises of love at first sight. Throughout this content, you'll discover when the heart recognizes love, how science explains this instant enchantment, and if there's a way to turn that initial spark into something lasting. And don't get me wrong, we're not talking about fairy tales here, but a reality that can impact your life in surprising ways. You're about to dive into a world where emotion and reason meet, and where the answers can be just as intriguing as the questions. We'll explore everything from the subtle signals your body sends when you meet someone special to the real-life experiences of people who have been on this journey. Maybe you'll see yourself in some of these stories, or perhaps you'll find new perspectives on what it means to love at first sight. And who knows, by the end of this conversation, you might be more prepared to recognize when your heart is trying to tell you something important. So, shall we begin? Love at first sight is that indescribable feeling that makes us question logic. It's like a lightning bolt through the heart, leaving a trail of instant enchantment. But is it really love, or just an idealization we've created in our minds? In that first glance, the heart seems to recognize something that reason can't quite explain. The first impressions and intense emotions play with our perception, creating a fascinating blend of expectation and reality. And that's when the heart starts beating faster, almost as if it's recognizing love before it understands it. Many believe that love at first sight is a myth, something that only exists in movies or the pages of a romance novel. But when you experience it, there's no denying the magic of first love. That moment when time seems to stand still, and you feel an inexplicable connection with someone you've just met. This connection, though mysterious, can be the foundation of a relationship that builds over time, challenging the idea that love must be slowly constructed. It's as if the heart knows something that the mind is still trying to decipher. However, some say that love at first sight is just a strong attraction, a momentary chemistry that makes us believe in something deeper. It could be that the heart, in its relentless search for a partner, confuses this enchantment with true love. And who can blame it? After all, love is a mystery that each of us experiences in a unique way. But what if there's more to this feeling? What if science could help us understand this phenomenon on a deeper level? Maybe there's something behind this magical encounter that explains why we feel this way. Science is always trying to decode the mysteries of the heart, and love at first sight is no exception. Research suggests that when we look at someone, our brain makes an almost instantaneous assessment based on factors like physical attraction and health cues. When we talk about brain chemistry, it's not just a figure of speech. Substances like dopamine and oxytocin kick in, triggering feelings of pleasure and well-being. It's almost as if the brain is programmed to push us towards someone who seems like a good match. Physical attraction is an important component, but it's not the only piece of the puzzle. Body language, tone of voice, and even the person's scent play a crucial role. Studies show that in a matter of milliseconds, our brain decides whether that person is special or not. It's a process that happens so quickly that we often don't realize it. But this snap decision is just the beginning. Science suggests that love at first sight might be a complex combination of factors, all working in unison to create that magical moment. Then there's the matter of familiarity. Believe it or not, the brain tends to be drawn to faces that remind us of people we love or familiar traits. It's like it seeks comfort in the unknown, finding something that resonates with our past experiences. So, when we feel like we've known someone forever, it could just be our brain making connections to the past. Fascinating, isn't it? The brain is a complex machine, but can it really predict the future of a relationship based on a single look? And that's the big question: is love at first sight just chemistry, or is there something deeper? Science can explain many aspects, but it can't capture the entirety of the experience. After all, love is a journey that goes beyond biology, touching on something deeper and intangible. But how do we know if what we're feeling is really love at first sight or just a strong attraction? Maybe the signs are clearer than we think. When it comes to love at first sight, many people wonder how to know if they're really experiencing it. Well, the signs can be subtle, but they're there. First, the heart races, almost as if it's taking a leap of emotion. It's that moment when you look at someone, and suddenly the world around you fades into the background. All that matters is that person and the inexplicable connection that seems to exist between you. It's not just a physical sensation, but a deep emotional recognition. Another sign is the feeling that you already know this person. It's almost like meeting someone from a past life. The conversation flows effortlessly, and the silence between you isn't uncomfortable. It feels like you have a history together, even though you've just met. This immediate sense of comfort can be an indicator that something special is happening. The heart seems to recognize something that the mind hasn't fully understood yet. It's as if the first meeting of eyes has sparked a flame that can't be extinguished. Additionally, there's an almost irresistible desire to be near this person. It's not just about physical attraction, it's a need for closeness, to be in their presence, to hear their voice, to see their smile. You find yourself thinking about them at random moments, as if your brain is trying to process this new reality. And when you're together, time seems to fly, as if every second with them is precious. It's an instant enchantment that leaves a lasting mark. However, it's important to recognize that love at first sight isn't a guarantee that the relationship will last forever. It's often the starting point of an exciting journey, but there's a long road ahead. And this leads us to an interesting question: is love at first sight more valuable or less than love that builds over time? Let's explore this comparison further. Comparing love at first sight to love built over time is like comparing lightning to a bonfire. Love at first sight is a flash, an explosion of emotions that takes us by surprise and lights up everything around. Meanwhile, built love is like a bonfire you feed with patience and care, creating a flame that grows and strengthens over time. Both have their value, but each brings its own advantages and challenges. Love at first sight can be intense and passionate, but does it have the same depth as love that develops slowly? Love at first sight is impulsive, full of emotion, and often guided by overwhelming chemistry. It makes us feel alive, makes us believe we've found the right person at first glance. However, it can be fleeting, as this initial enchantment doesn't always translate into long-term compatibility. Built love, on the other hand, is born from coexistence, mutual understanding, and growing together. It's that love you build brick by brick through shared experiences, overcome difficulties, and mutual respect. On the other hand, built love has the advantage of stability and security. It's not based only on an initial spark but on a solid foundation of trust and understanding. However, it might lack the same overwhelming passion that love at first sight provides. The intensity of the first meeting of eyes can be replaced by the calm of love that knows its roots. But does that mean one type of love is better than the other? Not necessarily. It all depends on what each person values in a relationship. And that's where the real question arises: how do you reconcile the intensity of love at first sight with the depth of built love? Maybe the secret is in finding a balance, in allowing the initial enchantment to transform into something more lasting. But is that possible? Is there a way to make love at first sight evolve into something deeper? Let's find out through the experiences of those who have been through it. When we talk about love at first sight, nothing is more convincing than the real experiences of those who have lived through this phenomenon. Imagine meeting someone at a party and, the moment your eyes meet, feeling an attraction so strong you know something special is happening. That's exactly what happened to Anna and Pedro. They saw each other from across the room and, within seconds, were talking as if they were old friends. That first meeting of eyes was the beginning of a journey that led them to a deep and lasting relationship. There's also the case of John and Clara, who met at an airport, both late for their flights. They literally bumped into each other and, as they looked at each other, felt a click. The feeling that this was the right moment and the right person. The conversation that started there extended to coffee, to dinner, and eventually to a life together. John describes that moment as if the universe was conspiring for them to meet. The magic of first love caught them by surprise, and since then, they've been together, living the surprising impact of love at first sight. However, not all love at first sight stories have a fairy tale ending. Maria and Carlos, for instance, fell in love instantly, but life ended up separating them. They met at a time when their lives were going in opposite directions. Despite the intense connection, they couldn't overcome the circumstances. Even so, both say that experience was important and meaningful, showing that love at first sight can leave lasting marks, even when it doesn't result in a lifelong relationship. These stories show us that love at first sight can be a powerful beginning but also emphasize that it's just the start of a journey. From this point on, the relationship needs to be nurtured and built. And here comes an interesting question: what is the role of intuition in all this process? Could it be what guides us to these unexpected and magical connections? Let's delve deeper into this. Intuition is that silent voice inside us that often guides our most important decisions, and in love at first sight, it can be a powerful ally. It's as if, in a magical encounter, our instinct tells us we've found someone special, someone who resonates with our deepest emotions. Intuition acts like a beacon, lighting the way amidst the darkness of uncertainty. But how do you trust something so intangible? Well, intuition has its roots in our past experiences and our ability to read subtleties that the conscious mind doesn't always notice. Imagine a situation where you meet someone and feel an instant connection, almost like recognizing a soul you've known for a long time. That's intuition speaking. It makes us feel like we've found the one without needing concrete proof. It's that feeling of security and comfort that comes out of nowhere. Many describe this feeling as an inexplicable certainty, as if something inside them is saying this encounter is more than just a coincidence. But of course, intuition isn't infallible. Sometimes it can be confused with desires or personal expectations, leading us to believe in something that isn't real. That's why it's important to balance intuition with a healthy dose of rationality. That is, listen to what the heart has to say, but also pay attention to the signs along the way. Intuition can guide us, but discernment helps us understand if we're really on the right path. So, how can we trust our intuition more without being blinded by it? Maybe the answer lies in learning to listen to ourselves and understanding the difference between a genuine hunch and an unfounded desire. And speaking of influences, how does culture and media affect our perception of love at first sight? Let's explore that next. Movies, books, and music have a unique way of capturing and amplifying the charm of love at first sight. Think about how many times we've watched a movie where two characters see each other for the first time, and instantly, we know they're meant to be together. Hollywood, in particular, loves to portray this moment as something almost magical, full of intense looks and emotional soundtracks. Romeo and Juliet and Titanic are classic examples of how pop culture has shaped our expectations around this kind of love. But can real life be that cinematic? In literature, love at first sight is often depicted as an overwhelming force. Authors like Jane Austen and Emily Bronte created characters who, upon meeting for the first time, feel a connection so powerful it defies logic and reason. These narratives make us dream and believe that maybe, somewhere in the world, there's a person who will recognize us at first glance. However, it's important to remember that reality rarely follows such a perfect script. In real life, there are nuances and challenges that fiction stories often leave out. And let's not forget the influence of music. Songs about love at first sight have the power to move our emotions, making us relive or imagine that unforgettable moment. Artists like Ed Sheeran and Adele have created ballads that capture the essence of this magical encounter. The lyrics talk about racing hearts, eyes meeting, and fates crossing. And these songs become the soundtracks of our lives, making us believe that love at first sight is something everyone can experience. However, this idealization can create unrealistic expectations. Media and pop culture tend to romanticize love at first sight, making it seem like the only way to find true love. But is it fair to expect real life to match these perfect narratives? Maybe it's time to demystify this idea a little and look at love at first sight in a more realistic and healthy way. And that's exactly what we'll do next. Love at first sight is a topic surrounded by myths and expectations that often don't match reality. One of the biggest misconceptions is the belief that finding your soulmate is a matter of destiny, and that by looking at someone for the first time, we'll instantly know if it's forever. The idea that there is one perfect person for each of us can be comforting, but it's also limiting. The reality is that relationships are built, not just discovered in a magical moment. True love goes beyond the initial enchantment. Another common myth is that love at first sight is a guarantee of lasting happiness. The intense and electrifying sensation of the first meeting of eyes can be mistaken for a deep connection, but the truth is that love requires more than a sweeping moment. It demands time, effort, and commitment from both parties. Building a healthy relationship involves knowing the other person in their entirety, with all imperfections and differences. Love at first sight can be the starting point, but shouldn't be the only foundation of a relationship. It's also important to debunk the idea that love at first sight is necessary for a relationship to be authentic or true. Many successful relationships start calmly, without fireworks or instant revelations. And that's okay. Every love story is unique and doesn't need to follow a preset script. What really matters is the connection and respect that develop over time. Love at first sight can be inspiring, but it's not the only way to find true love. Therefore, by demystifying love at first sight, we're not dismissing its beauty or magic, but bringing a more balanced and realistic perspective. After all, the initial enchantment doesn't always translate into a lasting relationship. And this brings us to an important reflection: what happens when love at first sight doesn't work out as we expected? Sometimes love at first sight doesn't lead to the fairy tale we imagined. The first meeting of eyes can be intense and overwhelming, but it doesn't always translate into long-term compatibility. Maybe you've experienced this, that feeling of finding the right person, only to discover later that the differences are too big to ignore. And that's okay, because love is a journey, and not all paths lead to the destination we desire. It's important to recognize that the initial intensity can sometimes blind us to crucial aspects of a relationship. The disillusionment can be painful, but it also brings valuable lessons. When the instant enchantment fades, we're forced to face reality and understand better what we're really looking for in a partner. It's like the heart giving us a wake-up call. Love at first sight reminds us that we're human, and that even when we let ourselves be carried away by emotion, reason has its place in building a healthy relationship. Learning to deal with these disappointments is part of personal growth. Keeping your feet on the ground is essential to navigate these feelings. When love at first sight doesn't work out, it's important not to blame yourself or believe that the experience was a mistake. Every relationship, no matter how brief or intense, contributes to our emotional maturity. It teaches us to be more conscious of our choices and to understand that sometimes what seemed like a great love was just a step in our journey. This prepares us for the next time the heart races when we see someone for the first time. And then comes the question: what to do when this love at first sight doesn't work out? The answer might lie in how we turn this experience into a lesson for the future. But also, how can we take this intensity and convert it into something more lasting and meaningful? Let's explore this further. Turning love at first sight into something lasting is like taking a spark and nurturing it until it becomes a constant flame. The initial enchantment is just the beginning. The real challenge is to nurture that connection and turn it into a solid relationship. Communication is key here. Sharing feelings, expectations, and fears is essential to building a foundation of trust. It's not just about living the magical moment, but understanding that the magic needs to be fed daily. Another crucial point is mutual growth. In the beginning, love at first sight may seem perfect, but as the relationship progresses, it's natural for differences and challenges to arise. Taking these opportunities to grow together is what strengthens the bond. Actively participating in each other's lives, supporting dreams, and facing obstacles as a team is what transforms the initial intensity into something deeper and more meaningful. Finally, keeping the charm alive is essential. Routine can easily extinguish the flame of first love if we're not careful. Surprises, gestures of affection, and quality time help maintain the sense of novelty. It's not about living in a constant state of passion but finding ways to renew the love as it evolves. And so, every day can become a new chapter in this fascinating journey. First love, especially when experienced at first sight, has a unique way of leaving deep marks on our lives. It teaches us about vulnerability, about the act of giving yourself without reservations. Even if it doesn't last forever, the impact is undeniable. It becomes a mirror reflecting our desires, our insecurities, and what we truly seek in a partner. Each encounter, each farewell, helps us understand better who we are and what we need to feel complete. These experiences also teach us to value the present. Love at first sight is a reminder of how life can be unpredictable and full of surprises. It makes us realize the importance of living in the now, of savoring each moment with the intensity it deserves. Reflecting on this first love, we see how much we've grown and matured, how much we've learned to deal with our emotions and expectations. It's like each lesson learned prepares us for something bigger in the future. Finally, first love makes us think about what it really means to love. It's a journey of self-knowledge and understanding of the other. It shows us that true love goes beyond the initial enchantment. It's a continuous process of learning and growth. And perhaps the biggest lesson is this: love, whether at first sight or built over time, has the power to transform us. And speaking of transformations, are you ready to apply all this in your own life? So now, after exploring the mysteries of love at first sight, how do you see this experience? Has your heart ever recognized someone so instantly and intensely? The big question is, what do you do with all this knowledge now? Life is full of meetings and partings, and each one has the potential to teach us something about ourselves and what we really want in a relationship. Love at first sight can be an electrifying beginning, but what really matters is what you build from that moment. Are you ready to let the initial enchantment evolve into something deeper and more meaningful? And more importantly, are you willing to apply these lessons in your future relationships? Think of the experiences we've shared here as tools to become more conscious and present in love. Don't just settle for what's easy or immediate, seek depth and mutual growth. After all, the real challenge is to turn that initial spark into a flame that warms and lights up your life for a long time. Now it's your turn. How about sharing your experiences and thoughts in the comments? Let's exchange ideas on this engaging topic. And if you want to keep learning about love and relationships, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Together, we'll uncover even more secrets of the heart. Until next time.